This is my conversation with Kendra Tuthill, a film worker, screenwriter, and Southern Gothic novelist living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, hey,
Yeah.
Kendra,
Hello.
thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Neha. I'm glad to
Uh,
be here.
a lot of people, for me, I'll start. Like, the reason why I wanted to have a chat with you
Mhm.
is because, like, for me, I'm new to this country. And the
Yeah.
more I find out, like, because I had a very weird misconception of what Americans are like,
Yeah.
because based on, like, American television,
Mhm.
and that's where this whole connection comes through with narrative, is that Americans are very loud. A lot of them are not educated, or they just
Yeah.
don't understand the rest of the world.
Yeah.
They come as tourists, they're like the loud, obnoxious tourists. And then Western
Yeah.
television that brings that, like, there's an audaciousness about Americans. And also weird misconceptions that there's a lot of gun violence here, a lot of fast food. And it's just this weird concoction of what an American is.
Yeah.
And then I come here. All I see is good people. I've never had a bad experience, touch wood, thank God.
Yeah.
People have been great.
Yeah.
From all walks of life. No one cares who you are, what you're doing, where you're from. It's just face value.
Yeah.
So me meeting you was also one of those experiences. And the connection where it comes is filmmaking, narrative building, and then reality.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
when I was like, your background, then
Right.
but so like this would be like kind of like the core elements of it. But before we start,
Yeah.
can you give us a little background about your work, your life?
Yeah. Let's see. I have been living in Albuquerque for about 13 years, and I've been working in film most of that time as an art director for film and TV. And before that, I was a truck driver. And before that, I was getting an MFA in writing from Portland State. And I grew up doing just a lot of traveling and a lot of writing, and always wanted to work in film, just didn't know that I'd be able to. Yeah.
Traveling, was that when you were working as a truck driver?
Even before that, I was traveling. Yeah. So I started traveling actually when I was 16 and went all over the country, and then just continued on from there. Just, it was like the most comfortable place to me was to be just driving down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or living in a van or whatever, camping, that kind of thing.
You said you started like, traveling and exploring. I mean, is that what you set off to? How did that start? Like, most people would be like, I mean, either there was a transition, like when you were in high school, what is that breaking point? Is like, I'm not going, the standard path. I want to change it a bit. So like, when did that happen?
I think I always wanted to travel. Like I always did. And I would read up on other cultures. And I just thought it just seemed like the most interesting thing a person could do was go out and see the world and learn more about other people and kind of compare and contrast to your own culture to like learn what the human experience is, for so many people. And so I always felt that way. But then when I was 16, I actually ran away from home. And so as I ran away from home, what I wanted to do was just go see everything, so it might've been, I ran away for certain reasons, but like, then I was running to something too, so it was actually a really positive time in my life to be just kind of freely running around the country and, hitchhiking and that kind of thing.
How did it must have been scary. Like, I've been 16. The most scariest thing, like that's like, you have to be a very brave person to do that.
Right.
And also a little bit stupid because it's like, the consequences and like, oh no, I shouldn't be doing this, but you still do it.
Yeah.
But that's what makes one person like an ordinary person versus someone who's like, go beyond what everybody would do. There has to be that spark. But what do you get out of it? Like, this has been quite a journey. Like running away at 16, that's extreme, but like something must have happened, or what pushed you to do that? It doesn't have to be like your personal anecdotes, but like if you would want to share, but there has to be like that, like, there's a disconnect, so to speak. That's why you leave.
You mean, so what was the reason for leaving home? Yeah. Well, I actually, my family and I we didn't really get along very well. I didn't feel connected to them. Like I actually was adopted. So I just never felt fully bonded, and when I was 16, I just finally felt like I was old enough, because before that I was a little too nervous and I couldn't drive if I'd had the chance to drive, if I had a car or something. And I just knew that I was too young to be out there yet. But I mean, I always fantasized about just like leaving ever since I was really, really little, and like, I would imagine like all the redheads before me, like Pippi Longstocking or, Annie or somebody, these other characters who also kind of, had similar situations and had these great adventures. And so it was actually a situation where after an argument, my mom kicked me out, but I was ready to leave anyway.
Yeah.
So I was actually kind of happy that she said that, because then it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
For leaving.
Officially free.
I'm officially free. Yeah. That's what I wanted. So then, that's what was the spark, I guess.
Yeah. And then what did you do? Like, how did it start off? Like, did you find a job? Or did you start like working? You said truck driver, so like that's a very from my background of like I don't know that many female truck drivers. It's a very like male dominated industry. You're on your own on the road. You have to have a sense of self to be able to do that, because it's just you. There's no one else with feedback or like a companion to like hang out with. It's solo on the road. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, so I didn't become a truck driver for years and years, but like I had traveled so much. And one of my favorite things was just driving and being by myself and thinking about things, just daydreaming. And I always wanted to be paid to daydream, but I was like, how do you get that job? And then I was actually living in Portland at the time, and I would go out, like I used to like to write at the coffee shops or whatever, but this one time I went to a truck stop diner, and so I was just writing in my journal or whatever. And I listened to some truck drivers talking about how they got started and just giving me some insight into what it is they even do.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that I really could do it. Finally, I always thought you had to have a truck, like some way to practice. I didn't realize that there were trucking schools. So I went home and I looked it up, and I went to a trucking. I decided on a Tuesday, I think, and then by Thursday I was on the road to trucking school.
No way.
Yeah, I just left my life. And did it. So and then I guess it does take a certain kind of personality. Like I like being, I love my friends, but I also really like to be alone. Yeah. It's very okay with me. I don't really get lonely or anything like that,
So how is it? Like, what's the industry like, truck driving? Because I know there's like a whole narrative around that, like they're one underpaid. And then it's just like, you're working long hours.
Yes.
And it's an odd, like it's the lifeblood of the nation, because everything moves to trucks.
True.
But then they're not the most respected, or like the way they're like, again, it's all comes back to like, how much do I get, or like, how can I make a living out of this?
Right.
Is this a future? And like, you left it, like what happened? Like,
yeah. So as a truck driver, you are typically driving 11 hours a day inside of a 14-hour period. And so as soon as your clock starts, so to speak, you have 14 hours that tick away, and you get 11 hours that you can drive.
Okay.
And you're doing other work too. So not all of your work is driving. You're also inspecting the truck, or you're delivering a load or something like that. And it takes up time. Parking can take a long time if you're not good at backing the truck, finding parking to, a place to sleep. But it doesn't, in my experience, it didn't end up paying very well.
Okay.
Yeah. I really thought that it was going to. I remember even just thinking like, can you get $1 a mile, 60 miles per hour. So that's $60 an hour. And I was like, this is great. And you're working, but that just wasn't how it ended up being. For one, if you're stuck in traffic, for example, you're not getting that money, but, you're going 1 mile per hour. Miles per hour.
So you're barely making anything then.
Yeah. So if you only get paid by the mile, and then you have all this other work that you have to do, or like I said, you're in or you're sitting at a loading dock for 3 hours and you can't drive.
Oh yeah.
You know, because you have to wait for the truck or the trailer to be loaded.
Yeah.
So all of that, like, you're still working, but you're not getting paid for it. So essentially I was making minimum wage. Yeah. And at that time was about 7 to 8 an hour.
And how does one survive with that?
Well, I didn't have a place that I lived anymore. So I didn't have to pay rent.
Yeah, I mean,
so I just basically paid for, you know, my phone and like a few other little things. So that's how you survive. But I think actually, to better answer that question, I ended up becoming a mentor. And as a mentor, you have another person on the truck and you're teaching them for like 6 weeks or whatever it is. And you typically, with all these companies, you get their miles. Yeah. So you drive for 10 or 11 hours.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And the truck keeps rolling. And so you get double the money. Yeah. And that was the only way I saw to actually make any money doing it. Otherwise, I week and ending up with $300 or $400 at the end of the week.
But then how do people do this on a like long-term basis? Because
a lot of people,
one emergency away, completely messed up because you're on the road. Hours in. Yeah. So sorry, miles in to be specific. Yeah. So what happens when, imagine you get into an accident or you're like sick? You don't have insurance probably, because if you're not getting paid enough, like, is there a union? Is there a community that can like at least help out? Because unless you're like, and we're going to end up relying on donations if you have an accident or like a medical emergency. And plus you're sitting for so many hours. Yeah. So it has its, you know, drawbacks from like a health perspective. And imagine you do that for 10 years. Yeah. It has its effect, like cascading effects. So what's this future of this industry then? Like from your perspective, of course, I mean, like this is just like you're in there.
Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, I did plenty of daydreaming, I guess, about how things could be changed. But right now, I don't really see. I mean, there are trucks that don't have drivers, you know, that drive automatically, or there could be a better train system to deliver. You know, still you would need trucks from every station to move all of this.
Distributed.
Yeah, exactly. So I've never really come up with something. I mean, unions, definitely there is a union. I was never part of it. It was never something that was offered to me or I knew how to get into at the time. But being in the union, you can get paid a lot more and get health benefits and all of that kind of thing. And I would imagine that they have some sort of protections for getting in an accident.
I would hope so.
Yeah. But for me, I knew that if I got into an accident, then I would be fired. That's it. Wherever you are, you're in the middle of Oklahoma, you're done.
And then you just have to
try to find a way home, basically. It's really cutthroat, believe it or not.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to get even more competitive. Like you kind of alluded to, no drivers in the truck. Yeah. But how many people are getting employed in the US itself that, like, you know, this is their livelihood, this is how they survive. Yeah. Because there are loads of trucks outside, loads of deliveries. Yeah. And now with Amazon and the even more competitive margins, people are being more dangerous on the road. Like I have seen, I'm not blaming the drivers because I know that they work insane hours. But if you're sleep deprived, I've had days when I'm like have a long day at work and I drive back home and I'm blasting the music. So I just keep my eyes open and reach home. Yeah. But imagine if I have to do this day in and day out. I can't survive. And I'm like, a lot of credit to people who push through and do it. But there's like no protections. Yeah. And like, I feel like that's also kind of the case in the film industry, transitioning to film. You're working in film. Do you see, like, is there a lot more support? At least the pay is better. What is it like? Because I know it's an evolving industry. Like, I think when you started off versus what it is now, has it changed? What is it like? And plus also, how did you get into it?
No, you got it. So with the film industry, I actually am in the union.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. And but I didn't just walk right into the union. I started off doing background work. I was an extra.
Okay.
And I did that because before that, like I said, I was a truck driver. And so I would just daydream. And I was like, I really want to work in film, but I had no idea how you get in.
Yeah.
Like, you have to know somebody, or that's what people always say. I did happen to know that there was film in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I had lived here before. So even though I never met any person who worked in film, but I was kind of familiar with the city, at least. And I decided that I would move here and figure it out, basically.
Yeah.
And so the only way I knew to get in was to be background. And then I thought, okay, well, because I wanted to write and direct at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so so I was like, I'll just go be an extra, and then I can pay attention to everything that's going on.
Yeah.
What are the cameras doing? Who are these people? What departments are they in? You know, and all of that. And I learned so much. It's like, I can barely remember how I used to think of film, but it was very different from what it actually was. But yeah, long hours. So like I said, I started off and when I finally became a crew member, which wasn't for maybe 2 years or so, I'm trying to think, 3 years until I started to be able to do actual crew. I still wasn't union. And so I was working sometimes 20 hours a day, 22 hours a day, have 2 or 3 hours off before having to drive and get to set and work again for the same amount of time. And at a certain point, you're just completely sick.
Yeah.
And it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's like, I refuse to do that kind of work now. It has to be safe for me to, agree to do it.
Yeah.
But when you're working union, it doesn't mean that doesn't ever happen, but like it's really rare. You'll tend to work 12 to 16 hours a day. People they try to keep it at 12. That's where that's the sweet spot. It's like 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. But a lot of times these shows, if they're not well organized, or they're trying to squish everything into a short period to save money, then they will have you working like 16 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a tight shift, and everyone's like kind of huddling, you gotta get it done.
Yeah.
But if it becomes repetitive, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Although, like you mentioned, a union, like, it's almost like this is a protection that employees have, like with any company. But then there's a lot of pushback with people having unions.
Yes.
Why is it politics? Like, for someone who's a layman and who's not from here,
right?
Can you give a context of like, what is it like from a perspective of like it benefiting you, and then the argument on the other side?
So my understanding for the argument on the other side is people who they don't know very much about unions, and so they've been told a few things that are untrue. They're told that it's exclusive, and just that you have to pay dues, and that's it, and you don't really get anything out of it. And it's just, and they think exclusive in the sense that, oh, now I can't go work for the railroad because I have to be in the union. Well, that really sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to pay. I have to pay to work. And it does sound bad when it's like that. But when you realize all of the work that the unions are doing all the time to make it so that you are safe, it's incredible. I heard a story the other day. I was at a meeting and this woman told a story about how her father was a machinist.
Okay.
And he was the only breadwinner in the family, and there were 5 kids. And one day he got actually into a union for the machinists. And one day he actually lost his arm in one of the machines. It just ripped it off.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
And that could have ruined their lives completely because he had no way to work that machine anymore. But because of the union, the company had to pay the family for that loss, and then also had to train him to become to do a different job at the same company so that he would continue to have that livelihood. But without unions, these companies, they often just exploit their workers.
Hmm.
They'll work just like they did before I was in the union. You know, it's 20 hours a day. You feel like they don't care if you live or die, really.
Yeah.
You know, they just want their product. They just want their money. They're trying to cut the fat all the time, and the fat is us.
Yeah.
You know,
who are the ones building their dreams, essentially, whatever we're doing. Yeah.
They're just like squeezing everybody dry for themselves. And when you're in the union, it's a way that you can actually fight back.
Yeah.
Because you all stand there together and you say, like, we won't take this. You need to pay us. You need to give us a living wage.
Yeah.
We need to have days off. We need to have a certain amount of time off between like shifts.
Yeah.
You know, so that it's not 2 hours. It's the reason that we have all the holidays that we have. Like in our union, we now, and I don't know if this is across the board, but I know in ours, like we now have Juneteenth as a holiday. Yeah. And that's just awesome. It's so beautiful that we have that. And if we work on that day, then you get whatever it is, time and a half or double, or, you know. Yeah. So it's the reason, you know, so people who are against unions are often, not often, but they just are benefiting from all the work that the unions have done.
Yeah.
Because it spills over into, you know, other jobs that are non-union.
Yeah.
You know, becomes the norm that you need to have off, you know, Labor Day, Memorial Day, whatever, these things, you know, or be paid more.
Yeah.
For example. But yeah, when you're union, you get health benefits. I mean, I can go on about this obviously for a while because it's definitely an interest of mine.
Yeah.
But yes, you're guaranteed safety. And if you're being abused by your employer, then the union is going to come help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although you said that, you know, initially you weren't in the union and then you joined it a little late.
Yeah.
And that's why you ended up in a path where, like, you know, you had been taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So why didn't you? I mean, knowing what you know, was it because you weren't aware or?
Well, because, so this is where I think people will get the idea that it's exclusive.
Yeah.
Because I also felt like that. I was like, how do I even get into the union? And I different unions have different requirements to get in. Okay. So I'm in 2 unions, but with one of mine, for example, you need to have worked 30 days doing that craft.
Makes sense.
And then when you can prove that you've done that, then you have entry into the union.
But why even have a barrier?
No, I think that's a really great question. That's one of the things that I've been wondering too.
Yeah,
you know, why is it
for
like
those 30
that?
hours you're going to be, you know, taken advantage of? Like, might as well just, you know, hand this person the protection beforehand. Like, it's just kind of like a part of the contract. Like, you are part of a union. We will protect you and your wages and your livelihood and your safety and security. But like, there's always the other side of the coin where it's like, let's make the most of it. Oh, these unions are so over bloated and there's just corruption and all of that, which is also partly true.
Right. And I haven't had that experience in the union that I'm in.
Yes.
But just as a note, it's 30 days working a union job.
Oh, okay.
So you are protected when you're working those 30 days to get your, but there is like a catch-22. It's like, how do you get the union job if you're not already in the union?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we actually, we do have ways to, like with ours, of the 480 local 480 film union, we have ways that people can get in. You just essentially go to the website and ask to be on the overflow list.
Yeah.
If there's a job that a union worker can't take, or, you know, we don't have enough people, then now we have to start just getting people in and get them protected. Yeah.
Makes sense. So tell me a little bit about what you do. You're in the film industry. You said you wanted to be a writer or a director, but you look like, because that's the coolest thing, because that makes the scene, the story, it kind of speaks without saying anything. And like, what has that process been like? What is it like?
And but it is, I am participating in the design of the set. So the production designer will design the sets. They have ideas of how they want it to look, what the layout might be of a set, and I'm talking about building sets. And then the art director is a bit of a manager.
Okay.
Right. So while we get to actually also put forward our ideas, and say, well, wouldn't this be cool? Let's add this. I think this is how we can go about building it. We also kind of oversee the people who will literally physically be building it. So I go to set all the time and I talk to the construction team, and I talk to the painters and I talk to the greens department, which is landscaping, and I'm like, oh, this is a little different from what the production designer asked for. So, so we kind of just keep managing. Yeah. It's also a job that requires a lot of organizing because it's just so much coordinating. Yeah. So it's like throwing a wedding, but every single day for the next 6 weeks. And it's a different wedding. It's a different wedding. All these people are going to show up and they're going to see your set. Yeah. And you have to have every single thing ready, and it has to work with the story. Yeah. So when I do production design, which does have more, it's like both are really creative jobs. Yeah. Production designer is essentially in the chain of command is like higher up. So production designer, then art director. Okay. Right. And so as a production designer, I'll think a lot about the color palettes, what people are wearing when they sit on the orange couch, and how that's going to look. And you think about the characters a lot. So like having the writing background and like has been really helpful because the set will kind of usually be an expression of who that person is and what their desires are. Okay. Can you give me like an example of something that was like, okay, this was fun. Like, let's go back a bit. Like what few projects like that was like. Oh yeah. I think I always refer to Love Lies Bleeding. Okay. What's that? Okay. So that was a movie I did. It's an A24 film. And I did that a few years ago. It's with Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien for the actors. And what was really fun on that is there's some behind the scenes stuff. So if somebody's seen it or hasn't seen it, then I feel a little bad. But spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Yeah. So there's a part in the story where the character is feeling really big, and so then she presents really big, as in like a giant. Yeah, basically. And so it was my job to make it so that she's a giant standing next to and interacting with like normal sized people. Yeah. Yeah. So in this case, the character who becomes a giant is like walking down a driveway, and this driveway is like curved and comes down at the same time. Okay. Right. Which was a little difficult mathematically for me because what I had to do was recreate a real driveway, recreate that. But just at I think we did 1/3 scale, but we'll just say 1/3 scale so that it was like exactly the same angle and everything. And then have our actress walk down that. So she looks bigger. Yeah. So she looks bigger, but we superimpose that, or we erase the walkway that I made and put her on the driveway. Okay. So in the image. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. So it's like, we didn't paint it green or anything. So it wasn't like a green screen situation, but so I think that they just, sort of like they would do in the old days, and you sort of overlap the footage basically. Right. But so now again, she's walking down my ramp. Yeah. But it looks like the driveway. But then why not green screen then? You mean just have like just have it digitized and changed? I know I'm sounding like the asshole in the room, but the thing is, I'm not like my sister's creative. So like, when it comes to like crafts, like it has to be done a certain way, and then you get the result. Some people look for shortcuts. So like, I could generate it on AI, like that. Right. Yeah. That's what I want to understand from a creative perspective. Not like I'm talking down to you in any way, but I want to make people understand, because it took me a while. It drilled it down because of my sister, and I get it, but most people don't. And this is why I want you to like explain it to people who don't. Well, for one, we use green screen on a lot of stuff. Like it's really common to use green screen. Yeah. And do some kind of compositing, like VFX work, after. But I would say that a lot of us, for one, are just drawn towards doing things practically. Yeah. But I'm trying to think about that situation specifically with the ramp and the driveway. like how green screen would have even benefited us. I guess it would be take the image. We would still have to have her walking down a ramp to really, that's why. So it was a place where VFX would have, or a green screen would have actually failed us.
Yeah.
You know, because we need to get her walking and coming downhill. So because normally what you would do for VFX is you would get a plate, is what they call it, of just say the driveway.
Okay.
Right. And then you would put up a green screen somewhere in a studio. You would light it the same way that you lit the driveway, and you would have your actor move around and participate as if they are on the driveway. And then you put those images together. You cut out the green.
Yeah, kind of the same thing though. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. But in this case, it wouldn't have worked because no matter what, I was going to have to build that ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it has to be a choice rather than a shortcut, like from your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Use the tool that's going to do the best job. You know?
And how do you know it is the best? Because the thing is, for you, it's like, it's almost like, from what I understand, and I might be wrong, is that you go into a space, see what the requirements are, and then find a solution. And I think that's a non-stop process for you. It's
always, and sometimes the answer is a green screen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's something like that. You know, like we did, let's see, another place where we did something like that was on a movie called How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Okay.
And so that was a lot of fun. And in that we blow up a house.
Okay.
But of course I can't actually blow up a house.
Of course.
And so we had a house that our characters are working out of, you know, as they're figuring out how to blow up a pipeline. Right. And so at some point that house needs to blow up.
Yeah.
And it was an adobe house. So all of the windows are different sizes, and, you know, it's not something that's easy to recreate if we were going to do that.
Yeah.
It's like nothing is standard.
Yeah.
And so what we did is this is another thing with forced perspective, another situation. So a 1/3 scale house.
Yeah.
That looked exactly the same. Every little bit of dirt, every single thing, like where the water had run down, you know, every little thing, and the windows so it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
Same color, everything. And placed that 2 feet in the high, like up in the air, and placed it a certain distance. I couldn't tell you the distance anymore. I had to figure it out at the time.
Yeah.
And from the house, and then blew that up.
And it worked. It was realistic because it was.
It looked totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was at 1/3 scale.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you did that with like VFX, I mean, you could, but I mean, you can make things look pretty realistic, but they would have just taken an image of the house and then added something that's almost sometimes cartoony.
Yeah.
Not to put down people who do VFX, because like I said, they can make it really good. But a lot of times these small films, we don't have the money on the back end to do VFX anyway.
Makes sense.
You know, we actually, the producers are doing the math there. They're figuring it out. And they're saying, like, look, we have money, we have enough money to build a 1/3 scale house and blow that up. We have enough for that, but we don't have enough to hire a compositing team later, you know?
So what happens where there are films like, you know, that have completely blown out budgets, where like Odyssey recently, like I know there's a huge talented team and Christopher Nolan behind such a big production. Yeah. But $250 million. One, that is a huge amount of money.
That's a huge amount.
And then it's like a star-studded cast. The Odyssey, it was like, there's no question about it. Like the story is amazing. But the reception has been, like, you know, critics have said great things, but people are like, this is the worst movie ever.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you see the YouTube comments on the trailer, and it's like, this my Greek yogurt in the fridge is more Greek than this movie. Like the crowd, the public is very savage. Totally understand that. Yeah. So like putting that kind of money behind a project, what makes a good film from a great film? Because you'd assume great stars, great actors, such
Right.
a huge budget to do whatever under the sun is possible. They'll make it work.
Yeah.
And then like this is the kind of reception.
Right.
And it hasn't even come out yet. So like, let's just wait and see.
Wow.
Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But how do you know when you're on a set working there? And I'm not saying like you can just tell, but like what could make or break a movie according to you? Like, what is it? What's that thing?
I think it's always going to be it's all comes down to characters and being able to identify with a character and enjoying, the adventure that they're on. So a lot of times these movies that have these high budgets, they spend a lot on, especially VFX, like we're talking about. I haven't seen any trailers or anything, so I don't know what that looks like, but they spend so much money and they make it this epic thing. And what they forget about completely is that we're watching to see one person, usually.
Good point. Yeah.
That's ourselves in a way. And so sometimes they get all these characters that are perfect. And the reality is none of us sees ourselves as being perfect. So when there's a perfect character, I don't identify with that.
Yeah.
So I want the character who has the flaws. And it's not, I'm saying identify, that's not necessarily the right word. I should say like have empathy for, have some kind of understanding, like I get where they're coming from.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Kind of thing.
Like, that's also the reason why movies like The Joker, Joker with like what was his Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
And it's like he's so flawed. Like for me at least, I don't know. I'm not assuming everyone believes this. Took the movie in the same way.
Yeah.
He's so flawed and broken, but he's so in touch with it. Like you see him completely raw. Like I'm not saying I'm a psychopath or I want to kill and blow up people, but like you can see why.
Yes.
And that makes sense. Like I saw first movie on animation. Blue head. He's an anti-hero and he's an alien basically, and he's got this big blue head, and the Brad Pitt is the protagonist, so to speak. He's a superhero. Enough of the life.
I'm not sure.
Yes, it's an animation movie. It's for kids.
Okay.
But basically that was my first introduction to having an anti-hero as a lead character.
Oh, okay.
And it was so related, like school tension issues. So when I see, I could be that. That is me. And not that I want to be the hero of the movie. It's like, I see myself. Like, it's a reflection of you. Like, I can relate. Yeah. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
Switching, connecting that to you said you're a writer and you have written a book, which is quite interesting. So Stitches, tell us about it. How did it come about? What is it like, what are you trying to tell?
Yeah. So I've written a few books, and Stitches is the one that I actually decided that I would put out into the world, So I actually started writing that a long time ago when I was in an MFA program at George Mason in Virginia. It was after this other novel I was working on, I'm not going to say that it failed, but my professor really hated it.
Okay.
And that was, and I admired him. Yeah. So I was like, oh, and it just killed it on the table kind of thing. Yeah. So I was like, well, I need to write something else now.
Yeah.
And I had written a short story at the time that was kind of, like so many college students, I was obsessed with Kafka at the time, and everything, and Gregor and the bug and all of this, So my best friend had told me a dream of his where he woke up and he was deaf and blind, and he was just fell off of the bed, and the telling of the dream was so I was so interested in the tale. And I was like, can I turn this into a short story? Yeah. And he said, yeah. And then later I decided to turn it into a novel where I wanted you to see all of these characters, their reactions to this young man who is deaf and blind in the home. So the story itself is it takes place in Baltimore, and it's this family who doesn't have a lot of money, and their son, who's in his 20s, is deaf and blind. and he has a real disorder called NF2, neurofibromatosis type 2, which can cause this in people. Yeah. And so meanwhile, you are meeting his cousin who lives in Norway, and she's like a delinquent kind of, and her family is like, we're going to send you off to Baltimore to be with, get you away from all these like bad influences and stuff. And so she's sent off to this place, and she thinks America is going to be this amazing, like neon everywhere and everything's beautiful. And, but instead she's in Baltimore, which Baltimore does have a lot of great areas, but where she's at, it's just sort of raining and everything seems like it's falling apart. And this is where she's come to. And the only thing to do is to make friends with her cousin. And so they become friends. Yeah. So that's kind of the premise. But yeah, I started it so long ago, and then I finished it right as I finished the MFA program. Yeah. And then that's when I decided to be the truck driver. So I let go of it. Yeah. And then during quarantine, I was actually making a short film in my apartment. I did a lot of short films. Yeah. And I would do all the art. So I'd make, like for this one in particular, I was making newspapers, so like fake articles and stuff. Oh, nice. Right. And I was putting them on the windows, and just for the story. And I was like, I just need some content. I just need to like have some text. And so I was like, oh, here's that old book Stitches. I'll just cut and paste some of this into the article. Yeah. And then I just ended up sitting there reading the entire thing, and I was like, I'm going to rewrite this. No way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And my friend who'd had the dream, he was like one of my best friends ever, and he had passed away in that time. So I was like, well, I'm going to write it for him. I'm going to rewrite this whole thing for him. So then I put it out. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned your friend. Yeah. Who you lost. Like what happened? Like how, first of all, like, cause you said he was one of your closest friends. Yeah. 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 And I've actually lost more than one best friend in my life, over the past few years. And so his name was Harry Miller. And the reason why I gave the character NF2 is because that's what he had. And so it causes tumors to grow on your nerves and on your brain sheath. And like I said, you can lose your sight and your hearing. And he died at age 35. Really young. Yeah. And we just used to write together all the time, just hours and hours and hours, sitting across from each other at some diner somewhere, just writing. And, and he was in the writing program at George Mason too. So that's where you met? We met at the diner because I was making a zine at the time. Ah, zine. A zine. What's a zine? A zine is like it comes from magazine. Okay. Right. So it's just like some people call them like chapbook is kind of a similar thing. Yeah. So I have someone I'll have to show you, but it's usually just a collection of like artwork and poems, short stories, that kind of thing that you've handmade these little books. And then you, they're usually free and you just like give them out to people. Nice. But it's like all like one of a kind too, right? Yeah. So it's almost like if you give it to somebody, it's really special because there's like work. Yeah, you might have some copies of that one. Okay. But that would be like the only edition. Nice. Yeah. So that's what you were. Yeah. So we made zines for years together, and we took it very, very seriously. Yeah. You also mentioned you have lost a few friends. Yeah. So I mean, 35, that's young. And like dealing with the loss of someone who's so close, it's a hard one to, deal with. Like I've lost my dad and I don't think I'll ever recover from that. I never will. Yeah. So how does one, deal with that? And especially like, because for you, you like give that creative energy of putting that into like, a book so that they kind of not just work through it, but also process it. Yeah. It's not going to fix it, but it's somehow coming to reality with like this is whatever it was precious. How like what has that been like for you? Well, I think with Harry, while I was writing that, I was rewriting that whole last half of it. I just wanted to redo the ending, and I would just imagine him there across from me, Like I just spent hours and hours just in my head, like Harry's just sitting there with me in my mind, you know. But he had always wanted me to publish that book, and he wanted me to self-publish specifically. And so it doesn't fix it, but it did help me feel like I tried to do something. You know, he always really wanted to be remembered. That was something that was important to him. He always thought everybody's going to forget about me. So that was another area that I felt like I could do something about, you know, dedicate the book to him, talk about him on podcasts as I've done and that kind of thing. And then I lost my other friend, Renee, 2 years ago to suicide. And I've lost several friends, but there are two that just really take you to the ground, you know, and so for her, it's like you have to find your way to grieve. And I don't know that it ever is going to go away. I will always miss her. And I'll always miss Harry too, you know? And there's a part of me that doesn't want to stop missing them because I don't want them to be gone. And so for her, I started a thing that I called the moon processions.
What is that? Yeah, I think I've seen it. I've seen it
coming down the street.
Yes, but I got to tell people because it's quite a thing.
So, so she was born on a full moon, Renee, and her birthday was March 3rd, and it happened. This is over a year ago. And happened to be a full moon, and I've been just daydreaming up this idea of a parade or a procession or something. And I had seen some stuff like that around the country, you know, and I was like, I've always wanted to do it. And, but in honor of her. And so we made a lot of friends of mine who didn't even know her, but like they wanted to participate. So we made masks and costumes, and we did a procession to the full moon. So at sunset, or just after sunset, we walk quietly to a park and then have a ceremony. And the ceremony is just really silly. Like it's just taking silliness seriously, you know? And then just something that we made up that involves like Space Baby and like, you know, like all this stuff that's just like, you know, just creativity, just being creative.
No, wait, I want to go back. Space Baby. So let's go back. But Space Baby, what else?
It's just something that I made up kind of on the spot, and we stuck to it. So we decided I wanted to have characters. I wanted there to be different characters who would be part of the procession. So again, everybody's dressed up. We have like paper mache masks and stuff, and you know, gowns, whatever. Like people usually make stuff from whatever they have around the house. You know. And so I just came up with these names for characters, and one was Galactic Mommy, Daddy Time, like Father Time, but Daddy Time. And then the idea of Space Baby came up. So Space Baby, so basically what we do is we walk to the park, eventually get in some kind of circle. You know, people were being quiet, so we're not telling each other, get in a circle. No, you just kind of do it, and then people start to like get in line and go, oh, I guess this is what we're doing now, you know? And I would bring like a white, I like to make it like kind of feel weird and almost spooky, you know? So I had a backpack that I would carry with like a white sheet. So I put that out in the center, and then light some candles and have crystals and stuff like that. Have some like sage or something. And so we're Galactic Mommy and Daddy Time. And then I would go talk to them quietly and say, your only job is to choose a Space Baby.
Cute.
And but what was nice is like it actually would make people feel really special. And like they would talk to me about it later. So they would choose by just like walking over to somebody, usually somebody who's new. And they would just come up with on their own and be like, I can't believe it's so silly. Like who would care? But people do care for some reason. You know, it feels romantic. It feels spiritual, meaningful. Like you're making this moment to, and for me, like to grieve every month. So it's like every month I'm doing something, and for me that's for Renee. For other people, and it's also about community. She would have loved it.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I did it for should say we, because there were a bunch of us.
Yeah.
Did it for I think it was for 13 moons. And just did it for a year basically. And then I was like, okay, that was good.
Yeah. And plus, give it its space so you guys can all process it, and especially for you. Like, why was Renee so important? Like, how did you guys, like, what was her spark? Because every person has something,
well, we met when I was she was 14 and I was 15.
Okay.
And
so this was before you ran away.
Before I ran away.
Okay. So
and when I saw her, I immediately was like, I want to be friends with this person.
Yeah.
She just looked so interesting. She had pins all over her backpack. We were in photography class.
Oh, cute. Okay.
And so we became friends then. But I think what made it so that we stayed friends for 30 years was that we were always real with each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's important.
So it wasn't like if she liked a different kind of music, suddenly we have nothing in common.
Yeah.
What we had in common was at the core. And what we had in common was that we loved each other.
Yeah.
And she is probably was one of the most accepting people I've ever known in my life. It didn't matter who you were. You could be a criminal or you could be a cop. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
She was going to like bring you into her home and into her heart.
Yeah.
And she was incredibly passionate and creative. And she made so much art just out of anything that was around, just like trash art, sort of recycled art. And just like really had her heart in the right place. Always.
Do you have some of her work, or like is there anyone?
Yeah. And a lot of so this often happened unfortunately before somebody will commit suicide, is they often will give away a lot of their belongings. It's like a common trait.
Yeah, because you're thinking this means
I'm not going to be on this planet anymore. And even though I knew she had dealt with suicidal ideation in the past, and we had gone through scenarios before and times where she had attempted, but even though she gave me so much stuff 6 months before, I didn't key into that and realize that that's what was going on. I thought I had just gotten a house, and she was really excited, and she's like, let me give you a bunch of, so she gave me, if you were walk around my house, I can point out that piece of furniture my house is completely furnished. She took everything from her place and put it into mine, and some of that includes her paintings and that kind of thing. But
it's kind of an honor for her to be like, I want a piece of myself with you forever. It's like, it's not going anywhere. Like physically she is not there, but she's always there with you.
Always.
I mean, that means a lot, especially when you're on that stage. I would never encourage anyone to come to that point, and if you're there, ask for help. But if you're there at that point, it's the thinking is that like, who are my anchors? Who are my people? And leaving that behind with you is like, it means a lot. I'm sure you are still connected spiritually. Speaking of spirituality and like, how does one deal with that? Because, we are all very, like, I come from a very traditional background, religion, like, what happens, what's good, what's wrong. When you're a person who's like, trying to etch their own path and figure out what's right and wrong, it's a very different way of understanding. How does that work for someone like who's like I feel like you're one of those people who evolves and like sees what works, what doesn't, and then kind of navigates their path through life. You don't follow certain doctrine or belief. Again, this might be my assumption, but tell me a little bit about like, how does one make peace with the world or who they are?
Like I'm trying to understand the question a little bit better. So like, how do you, in general, or you mean
for
with
you,
somebody?
Like for me, like what my anchors are. Like, I know everyone's anchors are different. And for a person who's like, I feel like, again, making assumptions, but might be wrong, is that you have, like, you evolved a lot as a person, like living different lives with different people. So what is the like, the underlying thread? Like what makes life worth living? What is the purpose? Why are we here?
No, those are great questions. I mean, I think I'd love to definitely hear that from anybody, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I was taught, like, from my uncle, who was someone who was really important to me, that life was about learning, which made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it's the one thing every human is doing. You're always processing, no matter what state your body is in.
Yeah.
Something is trying to get better than it was. It's trying,
yeah.
you know? And so I was like, okay, because if there is a purpose to life, it has to be something that every single human can have. And that's the only thing, other than all of us having a heartbeat or breathing, the only thing I can think of that we all have in common for sure consistently is that we're always learning. So he told me that that was the purpose of life. And I took that to heart. So it's just learning about other people, you know, learning by traveling, reading books, but like learning about yourself was probably the most important. I don't know, because it's like you're always seeing through your own eyes and your own experience. So I think, like, kind of, you know, if you can kind of figure out what's going on in there, you can be closer to honesty.
Yeah.
The truth, whatever, if there's a truth, you know? So I don't know, but on a daily basis, as far as like my own spirituality and like how I get through, is like, honestly, with wishes. Like, that's what helps me get through, is like thinking about things that I want to do or I want to see, and just paying attention to that. Like, always paying attention to the next thing that I want to experience. I'm like, I'm on this planet and I want to experience being on a podcast. Okay, here we are. You know, I want to experience these things, and, you know, and I want to learn about it. I want to know what it's like. You know,
going back to like experiences, purpose, and like, you know, who you are versus what people are like, experiencing the world, different people. I want to go back to filmmaking and writing and storytelling. How does that connect? Because like everyone's got a story, but then also, like, you know, people want to share. How is that connected to filmmaking, and how much has this industry changed and evolved? Like, from an outsider, like I'll see a Japanese film. Okay, it's very quiet. There's no exchange of like temper and arguments, but it's so subtle, and somehow that's beautiful. And then there's a loud Bollywood movie, like I'm Indian, the colors, music, loud, and in Indian cinema, if you try, like, you know, like a period film, a very like quiet, based on that, there's an audience for it. I'm not saying, but the, you know, the big money makers are like these film productions. People gravitate towards that. What are people seeking, and what are storytellers trying to convey, and how has it changed?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. What are people seeking in film? Well, I think I would relate that back to earlier with the characters. And I think that there are plenty of people who say they go to the movies to escape. That's something I actually think about quite a bit, because I never really thought of it as an escape before. But I can relate this to a few things we've talked about, actually. So I think that there is a degree of that. Like, sometimes as an artist, as a paid artist, you can feel really selfish and privileged. Why do I get to do what I want and get paid for it? And am I making any positive impact in the world at all? With what I do? And the only way I can kind of wrestle that into something that works with my heart, you know, is to think about people like my friend Harry that I talked about. Because when he, for example, or his brother also had NF too. So his brother would listen to the TV because he was blind and he was paralyzed. And the only thing that he had all day long was listening to cartoons and just listening to these stories. And it can help people so much to have that break from pain.
Yeah.
And so when I'm kind of struggling with like, am I doing anything positive for anybody out here? You know, I think about literally people in hospitals.
Yeah.
I really do. And I think about like anytime that I've been in a hospital and like you're just waiting, you're in this waiting space and like, or even on a flight, that's not as dramatic, but it's just you know, to sink in to somebody else's story.
Yeah.
That isn't going through what you're going through.
Yeah. It's almost like a way of disconnecting, also connecting.
It's both.
It's a bit
somehow.
of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're fully immersed in an entirely new universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you create that. Like, that must be fun. Like, you know, you do that.
It's so fun.
And like you did mention once, I don't know, like if you're allowed to share it at this point, about this set, which is like all black and blue, pink.
Which one was that?
The one which is a digital one, and then you know there's it's all like very tech looking, and then there's this pink.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was like I'm not sure if I can say what it is unless you are allowed to, but like, you know, there are sets which are like completely devoid of like what we are used to in our spaces,
right?
And then building that into something that is like believable. It's not just about like creating a set. So all those details get into like, you know, play, not like everything that person touches, like, you know, like you said, the walkway,
right?
And you create that universe for someone. It is rewarding because you just like put them somewhere that they wouldn't imagine first, right?
Exactly. And like I think that as you make it more believable, is like an interesting word actually, because you can be making a different world that's somehow believable, but make it more tangible to the character. It's like you know how I said that when you create a set, it's an expression of whatever, you know, or what's happening with the character, like in their inner world or something like that. But if you do that in a way that's like, there's not really a right and wrong exact way that makes sense. People can really, really sink into that story because it's, you know, I actually have a hard time when you have these sets that are just so clean. You know, like there's barely any set dressing, and it's like sometimes I'm even asked to do that kind of thing. They're like, well, this character, John, the only thing he cares about is his job, so we don't want him to have any dressing. And it's like there's almost nobody like that.
No, wait, there is. I used to be that person. No, I promise you.
Did you have nothing around?
There have been years.
Yeah.
All I did was go to work, come home, sleep, take a shower, go to sleep. Then, so like, so art influences the way that we perceive ourselves and people around us. But then you also don't want to go on the far end where it's like every colors of the rainbow all the time. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It is because you, again, resonate. You can see someone like you and it's relatable. It's amazing. But can that thread also influence the way we see things that are actually not true? Sometimes sticking to accuracy.
Right. So perhaps somebody could make a story that's kind of idealistic.
Yeah. And it's
and it's like we have every kind of person and they're all hanging out and having a great time and we also are on a farm where there's just not a lot of diversity in actuality. So I think that what happens with those, coming back to that honesty thing, is like people feel it, that it's not being written with like an honest like observation of things.
But that's not always the case. So that's the reason why it's like it almost becomes like propaganda. That's what I'm saying. It becomes very dangerous things. Like you're treading the line where you're telling a story, but you're influencing the thought of a person who's watching you. Like if you watch a lot of Western television, you will think Arabs are all terrorists, right? That is the kind of a thing. It's most of the stories are like the Arab or the Arab guy from the Middle East is the bad guy. He wants to kill people, and it's like. Luckily for me, I lived in the Middle East. So I'm just like, this is far from it. But I see a lot of people who have never traveled to the Middle East. Like, is everyone covered over there? Or like, do women have rights? I get it. Like, you don't know. But what has happened is because cinema or television has influenced their thought,
Yeah.
where all they see is that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like propaganda.
Yeah.
So that's where I go, like, how much of fiction is connected to and is influenced by the narrator, and then how does that kind of become status quo and believing what, like, you change
Right.
reality, right?
Yeah. I mean, these are great questions, and I don't know.
It becomes
You
an
know?
ethical thing, yeah.
Yeah. And also, just how does it happen at all that just because we see something on a screen, which it does happen, but how? You
Yeah.
know? And I think it's because you have the understanding that all these other people are watching the same thing. And somehow that influences your thinking
Yeah.
about a kind of person. You know? And I don't understand it. I wish that I did understand it better. Yeah.
These are hard questions, especially like for a filmmaker, if someone who's telling a story.
But those stories are dishonest.
Oh, they have to be slightly, right? It's not a documentary.
It's not a documentary, but I think that fiction can be more honest than, I mean, a documentary is terribly dishonest.
Oh, you can change
editing, and it's like I have to create a story out of this, and we don't live stories. We live in this right here, which is just like in this moment in time that is somewhat connected to what happened 5 minutes ago and somewhat connected to what's going to happen.
True.
But our brains come up with the story.
Yeah.
So story, it's like, so when you're making like a documentary and you edit it and you're like, I'm going to make it have a point. And, in real life, it didn't have a point, but you make it. So documentaries and nonfiction, I think sometimes, they're not.
Yeah, it's not as accurate as it perceives.
As a story, I'm saying the story, it's kind of, the wording can be confusing, but you can write something that feels truly honest. And like I think that a lot of us anyway, I hope people are perceptive enough to see when something's dishonest.
Makes sense, yeah.
When it is propaganda. Because I know that when I was younger, some of my first stories, it's like, if you could think of it as positive propaganda, right? But that's what I was I was, 17, 18 years old writing these things. And people could always tell that it was not honest.
Yeah.
That I was trying to do something with my story.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how the audiences are, like, as far as like, are they perceptive enough to know when they're being trained to a idea?
Yeah, or like you pushed off the cliff to believe. Yeah, that's true. You would hope. Yeah.
So it's like it's dishonest when you have someone an Arab voice playing a terrorist, because we have no idea. We don't know anything about this character.
True.
We didn't see them do anything but that. It's a totally dishonest story.
Yeah, and I think the same with Americans, because for the longest time, all I thought was all Americans are loud, and like they are the way they are. But like, yes, some of them are loud. Yeah. But one thing that is very American, okay, and it sounds like very patriotic, but I am not American, so I can say it, is that Americans in general have the can-do attitude. Like, I'll do it. If you want to make a go to the moon, you'll go to the moon. You want to run 100 miles just to prove a point, you'll do it. A lot of people, the rest of the world, second guesses and also like overthink. Americans do things, ask questions later, and I think that is the core of the American spirit. I have not seen it as a collective anywhere else. So I mean, that is something.
I love hearing your perspective.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Last thing before we wrap it up. Where can people find your work or like see what you've done, been a part of, read your books? Like,
mostly on IMDb.
Yes.
You can look up, of course, anyone there, and you'll see, if you look me up, you'll see all the different movies that I've art directed or designed and stuff. And Stitches is actually, on Amazon or Barnes and Noble and, pretty much any website that sells books. I guess you can find it.
Which is the closest project to your heart?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Closest project to my heart. I think that's going to always change. It's going to always be what I'm doing at the moment.
Fair enough.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, there are things I really care about, like stitches, of course, because of my friend Harry.
Yeah.
You know, but I've always kind of, for the most part, made something, and then I'm done, and then I'm on to the
Makes
next
sense.
thing. You got to make room for the
new,
next
yeah.
start. Yeah.
So what is the one? It can be a piece of art, can be a book,
Yeah.
it can be a movie that right now is something that like, yeah, that's kind of making me think or like changing something in me.
Oh, let's see. That's a. I'm trying to think then what would be something that is like I was just talking about present day that's doing that for me. I think that I haven't even seen these movies.
Okay.
Obsessions.
Oh yes, Obsession. Yes.
And then Backrooms.
Oh, okay. I've seen both, and you should.
They good? Okay.
Oh, you should.
All right. So I haven't seen these, but I'm still being influenced by the making of them. I don't know their stories.
Yeah.
I just know a little bit of the behind the scenes. And this I think relates to a lot of what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
That these were made with very small budgets, and they're doing really well because they have good stories.
Yeah.
And so that is really inspiring to me.
Yeah.
And the idea of creating a different sort of business model for filmmaking is really inspiring to me right now. As someone said to me recently, the producers have been trying to figure out how to cut the fat, us, for a long time. And now maybe it's time for us to do that to them.
I think that could be the
maybe
start.
We can start to cut out and have co-ops.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of where I'm daydreaming about right now.
I feel like in a way, and this might be a very like, a thinking that's very too positive for reality, is that I think that AI will do that to us.
Oh, no, interesting.
And I'll tell you why. It's because there was a time where being a business owner or starting something off was really expensive because you couldn't hire an accountant. You couldn't hire someone doing your admin, or you couldn't start it off because it was just too much. Now you could sit with an AI and they would help you and assist you through every process. Instead of using it as a be all and do everything, use it as a tool. It's getting there. It's not accurate and 100% there, but it can do your taxes. Right. It can do your accounts. It can help you write. If you want to express something, you give it a few like nudges, and it'll draft something for you. There have been most people who I don't even know how to write up my CV or cover letter. I can't get a job because of that. And then training of that. Like if I don't know how to do my job, you put it on like I'm this person. This is what my tasks are. This is my job responsibilities. How can I do it? And it'll teach you. So what is your barrier now? There was like, okay, I have to go to university and I've got to get a degree and it has to be accredited so I can get a job. It's like, not anymore. If you want to start an ice cream shop or like get an ice cream cart or whatever and start selling ice cream, it'll give you a business plan. It'll tell you how much it's going to budget. Say I have only $20,000, for example. I have like 5,000. What is feasible? What is it? You would have to go to an expert to tell you market projections. It'll tell you, is there a demand for it in Albuquerque? How many people? I was like, get it in the summer months. Go to the park. Like options are there. This is where you can get your permit. That costed money to people, and that was a barrier to entry.
No, that's a good point.
It has flattened the curve. Anyone can do anything, but what people are like, they're taking my job.
Except for being an accountant.
No, because you can still be an accountant.
You could, but that's the hard part. Is because AI. I think what you're talking about is like such a good point, and like it's inevitable. This movement is inevitable.
But didn't people say that same thing about computers or like technological innovation, industrialization is like they are taking away our jobs. How are we going to feed our families? The problem although is, and I'm not dismissing that, is the adaptation time. So during that time, you're a fresh graduate and you studied tech, and now all the coding jobs are gone because AI can do it I remember the time when I was graduating from high school, a lot of my I studied science and like more tech. So there were loads of people who were getting into engineering because that's where the money was.
Right.
And if you see a lot of Indians who have come to the US, they're in tech jobs because they knew that that's their way out.
Yeah.
And get the demand. So as the tide, it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And it's scary, and I'm not denying that there are loads of people who are unemployed because of it, and more people are going to get unemployed, but the tide is turning. The companies that were like AI driven, 80% of them have failed. 80% of AI driven companies or startups have failed.
Wow.
And these are people who put all their eggs in that AI basket. We're hearing a lot of in the news that the AI bubble might burst, not just the data centers. So I don't know. I mean, it's
no, it's fascinating, and I think you're right. That I think kind of like you said, that this idea that computers were going to take everybody's jobs, but instead, it's like now I just have 50 emails a day
exactly
to respond to.
True.
So, but it took a moment.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
It's growing pains, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Yeah,
but I appreciate you coming in and having a chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your house is lovely.
Oh,
There's
thanks.
artwork everywhere.
Thank you.